Hey, everybody. We're back for chapter 7, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. This chapter is titled, God Can't Do Everything, but He Can Do Some Important Things. And jumping right in, one example of prayer that he starts with is the prayer for health. And we all know that that is a powerful prayer, right? My aunt is sick. God, can you help her? Well, what exactly is it that God can do, right? And so few people pray anymore. And the reason why that is, of course, is that people have prayed and not gotten what they wanted. And so they said, well, forget this. I'm not doing this anymore. But I think it's not necessarily fair. It's not fair to ourselves, not fair to God. You ask people for things that they can't give you. If you say, well, could you give me a pencil? And I'd be like, okay, sure, here you go. But then you turn around and say, well, can you give me $1 million? And I'm like, I don't have it, so I can't give it to you. And you're like, well, forget you. I'm never asking you for anything again. That's not fair. And I think that's what we do with God, because we've talked already in the previous chapters about what God can't do, right? And what he chooses not to do because he's either given us a gift or he's allowed nature to work its beautiful magic. So he talks about a number of different reasons why we don't get things. He says, well, we don't deserve it, or why we think we don't get what we deserve. Uh, we didn't deserve it. We didn't pray hard enough. God knows best. The opposite prayer mattered more. Well, God's not a referee, and all everybody matters equally. So if I'm praying for something and you're praying for the opposite, God doesn't say, well, I like that person better. That can't be right. God doesn't hear our prayers. Well, then that would defeat the whole purpose of having a God, or that there is no God. That's not relevant to this particular argument. The answer is something else. God doesn't change what already happened, he says. You can't say, well, oh, can you make this? You find out that you're pregnant, and you say, well, like, oh, can you make this a girl or a boy? Well, no, you really can't. Or can you? I am applying for these graduate schools, and get the acceptance or decline letter in your hand, and you're like, please let it be an acceptance. Well, he's not going to go and change what's already happened. Then he talks about miracles, and this is a really interesting topic, because I mean, we hope that these miraculous things happen. Well, there's one thing about being hopeful, but to expect God to to do them for us is not fair, right? In the same sense as and because we hear of things that happen, we hear of miracles that happen, and we want them to happen to us too. But what we don't understand is that science, right? We think we've got the world figured out, but we don't, right? In the past, there have been centuries of people who have um, who miracles have happened to, and they're things like a drought lets up and it rains, and they thank God for this thing that happened to them. But that's just we know today that that's just a function of meteorology and not God at all, right? That's nature, and and in the same sense, we don't know everything, and so are there parts of medicine and pharmaceuticals that we don't know yet, like drugs that we don't know that could help, and to us, if it were to help, it would be miraculous, right? When Dr. Salk um, discovered the vaccine for polio, was that a miracle, or was that just us figuring out science when we were able to? How many of these miracles that we hear about are actually that same thing, where we have found some kind of cure, we found some kind of thing, and we just don't know it yet? So, miracles, how should we respond to these things that we hear that are miraculous? Just be grateful. We don't understand it. We eventually might, probably will, but until we do, then we just have to be grateful, that we lucked onto something. On page 130 and 131, I absolutely love this particular prayer. I'm going to read it really quick. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in a way that man must find his own path to peace. within himself and with his neighbor. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end starvation, for you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world, if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, for you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all men, if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair, for you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope, if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, for you have already given us the great minds with which to search out cures and healing, if we would only use them constructively. Therefore, we pray to you instead, O God, for strength, determination, and willpower, to do instead of just to pray, to become instead of merely to wish. This is everything that Kushner is trying to describe here. Is that these things that we're asking for are things that we probably should be working on ourselves. That we have some ownership in this world as well, besides just kind of putting those expectations on God. So he says that prayer does two things. First of all, prayer puts us in touch with others. We need to remember when terrible tragedies happen to us that we're still alive and we are part of something that matters. That's really important. And that's kind of the key to us going on and moving on and getting past the things that hurt us. And it saves us from isolation. Um, let's see. And on page 134, it really kind of gets to the heart of what prayer can do for us. So, should you offer to somebody, like, hey, I'll pray for you? Should you do that? And the answer is yes. And here's why. He says this is what prayer really can do for somebody. Because what you're communicating when you say, hey, I'm going to pray for you, is this. I hear you're concerned about your mother. This is on page 134. I understand that you are worried and afraid of what might happen. I want you to know that I and your neighbors in the community share that concern. We're with you, even though we may not know you, because we can imagine ourselves being in your situation and wanting and needing all the support we can get. We are hoping and praying along with you that things turn out well, so that you don't have to feel that you are facing this frightening situation alone. If it helps you, if it helps your mother to know that we too are concerned and hoping for her recovery, let me assure you that this is the case. And that is really what prayer can do, is connect us and keep us from isolation. The second thing that prayer can do is it puts us in touch with God. And we're not beggars. We're not here to beg God to be able to do, um, to be able to give us what we want. And because in fact, we don't have anything that God needs. Um, we need to pray instead, I'm on page 138, for courage, for strength to bear the unbearable, for the grace to remember what they have left instead of what they have lost. Very often, these are the prayers that actually are answered. And these are the things that God can give us. So, the reason why we give up on prayer is because we don't get what we've asked for, but the problem is we're asking for the wrong things. There's no one who, from the depths of their heart, prays for courage, strength, and grace that doesn't receive it, honestly. And moving on to page 141, Kushner says, I believe that God gives us strength and patience and hope, renewing our spiritual resources when they run dry. And I love how he finishes up here. He talks about how one of the reasons why he believes God is real. He says, one of the things that constantly reassures me that God is real and not just an idea that religious leaders made up is the fact that people who pray for strength, hope, and courage so often find resources of strength, hope, and courage that they did not have before they prayed. And that's just an example of God giving us what we prayed for, as long as we're praying for the right things. I hope this was a good chapter for you. I really enjoyed it. It really it puts prayer in the right perspective, right? That we are asking what we're asking for and where it should come from, and how we can help others do it.